So GameFreak and the Pokemon Company really seem to be doing it this time, and by doing it, I mean changing up some fundamental things in their release strategy when it comes to new games and the timing around them, as well as broadening the workforce and really trying to go for a all hands on deck approach when they have new major games released. And this is very needed following releases like Scarlet and Violet, where you have Nintendo of America straight up going to Twitter to say, yeah, they're updating the game, they're taking players' feedback very seriously and will continue to improve the game, and that's a PR way of saying we're sorry for how we released this product. You then have record-breaking profits for the company posted year in and year out, and a whopping $10.8 billion in revenue from retail sales, ranking it number 7 out of the top 10 global brand licensing companies. And you cross-reference those type of numbers with the performance of Scarlet and Violet at release, and even now post-patch, it doesn't run that much better. While a lot of game-breaking bugs and glitches have been fixed, it still visually could very much be taken to the next level. Some of that's due to Nintendo's hardware, not necessarily the case if you compare it to certain other games on the platform, and you hope that the lesson from the Pokemon Company and GameFreak might be learned that even though Scarlet and Violet are performing great from a sales expectation, that we might need to look at the fundamentals of the company and specifically the release schedule on how frequently they are pumping out these Pokemon games, because you might also remember around the release of Scarlet and Violet, we had Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl release in November of 2021, which while worked on by a separate team is still nonetheless a Pokemon Company title. We turned around and got Legends Arceus in January of the following year in 2022. Then we saw their massive leap forward into a open world Pokemon game release in November of 2022. That is a lot of Pokemon in one very small amount of time, and it does seem like it has finally dawned on GameFreak to not only expand their workforce, but also potentially give us a much broader, more spread out release schedule. As you've probably noticed, in 2024, we are kind of sparse on Pokemon news right now. Now, there is some reason to believe that there is a Presents coming up where we should actually be able to expect some additional news around games like Legends ZA, and we will tackle that briefly. But I want to first kick off this conversation by talking about some information that has been spotted online that could suggest that Pokemon Legends ZA may not be coming out until summer or fall 2025 at the soonest, and we may even see it be positioned for the holiday Nintendo 2025 title, aka a November release. As you can see the following article over from PokeBeach on screen here, which does outline a interesting lineup and correlation of all of the Pokemon trading card game themes of their new releases lining up with their new games. And the TLDR breakdown is that the Pokemon Company has started to announce the TCG products for Q1 and Q2 of next year, and there is nothing related to Pokemon Legends ZA directly or to Kalos and Mega Evolutions releasing, as TPC is instead focused on old fan favorites for new sets, decks, and cards. As the TCG is strongly tied to the release of new games, this is a very strong indication that the game won't come out early next year. And you then see headlines like this that do suggest that GameFreak is also expanding their workforce, where this reads over on My Nintendo News, GameFreak recruiting for lots of new staff members. Pokemon main series developers GameFreak have faced their fair share of criticism when it comes to developing mainline Pokemon titles, with Scarlet and Violet being a particularly low point for the company, despite the game selling millions of copies. The company is presumably looking to resolve this by acquiring new talent, as they are holding a career recruitment online information meeting on August 30th. GameFreak is looking to fill the following positions, and candidates must have had at least 3 years of experience in the video games industry. And when you look at the job listings on screen, there are numerous positions, and it's not clear that it's just one position each. Like, there's probably going to be multiple hires assigned to each of these roles within GameFreak. So all of that to say, while the Pokemon Company, I'm sure, is very happy with the sales success of Scarlet and Violet, it does seem like they took the fan criticism and backlash very seriously around it, and I think they have internally shifted some of their more aggressive timeline on rushing out these games, which naturally needed to happen because they're not developing exclusively on handheld hardware anymore like we were in the DS, 3DS era, and of course the whole Game Boy era before that. Games are more complex on a hybrid console like the Nintendo Switch, and we're right around the corner from hopping into the next generation that Nintendo has to offer with the Switch 2, or hopefully Super Nintendo Switch as I am wanting them to call it. And there are certain bare minimum expectations for games in the modern day, especially when you start to branch out to open world. You don't have to make it a crazy realistic visual showpiece every time, but it would be nice to see some extra love and care into the graphics and textures, and you can do that with a broader workforce. You can also do it when people aren't rushing out games every single calendar year, and I really think that this is a big positive indication that Game Freak's moving in the right direction here, and potentially Legends EA could be the big Pokemon game for 2025 without us learning very much about any other projects. Maybe there's a simple remaster collection of games alongside of it, whether that be Black and White remaster or something like a Let's Go Johto. I'd be open to either one of those, but I think while something on the more simple side releasing alongside Legends EA, when you look at the scope of what Legends Arceus was, which by the way is probably my favorite Pokemon experience to date, absolutely loved like the dodge roll mechanics, the more live sneaking around, trying to catch Pokemon, having to worry about being damaged from Pokemon directly in the overworld. I absolutely loved everything that Legends Arceus accomplished for what I feel like really ushered in the future formula for Pokemon games from here, and I'm glad they're continuing it as a spin-off type of title, not necessarily the mainline, because I know some mainline fans that really want to see it go more in the continual direction of what Scarlet and Violet has done. That's fine. I think a balance of both is actually going to be probably the right approach, a balance of Scarlet and Violet and Legends Arceus mechanics, that is. But I am really okay with Game Freak and the Pokemon Company taking their time with Legends EA, and while I'm hopeful we get some news on it soon, if you look at the Pokemon Presents history, the last few years indicate to us that in August, which is in the month we are in at the time of filming this video, we should be able to expect some kind of Pokemon Presents to air this month, and we may indeed get a little bit of a deeper look at Legends EA, and maybe even some last minute simple remaster games promoted for late this year or early next year, maybe mid next year. Like, the Pokemon Company has a lot of stuff cooking, but it seems like they're not just rushing games out the door anymore, and these hiring posts, along with this trading card game info that we have that suggests ZA is probably getting a little bit more love and care and a thoughtful release schedule this time around, is very promising for me to see. So let me know in the comments down below if you're hyped about this news. Do you think that this is the right direction for Pokemon Company and Game Freak to continue to go? Are you somebody who would actually prefer more Pokemon games to release quicker, and you don't think that they need the quality time, love, and care? I definitely don't feel like that, but I would love to hear your sentiments around it if you do. Also, if you had to pick any kind of smaller remaster, remake, what would you pick next? Do you think the Pokemon Company might do something like a Black and White remaster next, or would you prefer to actually see Let's Go Johto come back and actually usher in that third kind of subset of games in the Nintendo Switch era? And would you keep like the single Joy-Con mechanic and more of the motion-based stuff for the Let's Go games, or would you assume, maybe go to a more traditional middle step like a Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl traditional control setup, but still like the remakes of your Gold and Silver, the Johto era games? Like, is that what you want to see, or what would you prefer Game Freak to work on next from a remake slash remaster perspective? And do you think that in the month of August we will ultimately see a Pokemon Presents drop with hopefully some Legends ZA news there, or do you think it might be quiet for the foreseeable future from the Pokemon Company? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.